Good morning, everyone. I'm going to get us started. Okay, a couple of announcements before I dig into tech. Number one, remember that we have this Google Chat competition going on right now. I just dropped the flyer in the chat if you want to look at it. So far, we have 2 entries. And so if you remember, the prize for this is an iPad mini. So right now, either Martine or Natalie Lyons, you have a 50-50 chance of getting a iPad mini. So if anyone else wants to add their hat to the ring, feel free to go for it. All responses are due this Friday evening at midnight. So really good chance that you could win an iPad mini. So go for it, people. And then I also wanted to tell you that this is the last this morning of this year. If you look forward in the calendar, a week from today is Christmas, and then a week from Christmas is New Year's. So we will be canceling the next 2 this mornings. I'll update your calendar right after this, but we'll be back for our weekly calls starting on January 8th at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So anyway, just be on the lookout for that and no need to show up for the next 2 weeks. Hopefully you guys are just really enjoying the holidays with your families. Okay, so today, as promised last week, I am going through today 5 things that I really want you guys to try to implement in 2025 from a tech standpoint. So I'm going to go ahead and dig into Platform so you can see that. Okay. So I am in Platform here, and we're going to start with tool number 1, which is Pipeline. If you'll remember, they released Pipeline last month, I think. And this is a way for you guys to track goals. So if you're on your Platform dashboard and you scroll down, you're going to see this little widget here. Now it's set for 2024 right now, but as soon as New Year's hits, it'll switch over to 2025. So what I want you guys to be thinking of right now is I want you to set a goal for next year. Okay. I think our company is really big on goal setting and kind of pushing yourself towards your best. And so what I want you to do is set that goal and put it in writing here in Platform. And so the way you're going to do that, if you hit on this widget, these 3 little dots right here, you're going to hit update my goals. And these are the couple things that it's going to ask you. What's your annual sales volume goal? What's your annual commission goal? And what's your average sales price? You can look this up in whatever MLS that you use if you want to actually calculate like your sales price. But you can also just use like the market average if you're a newer agent and you're not quite sure what to use. So for instance, if I wanted to say, I want to sell $5 million next year, and I'm not a math person in my head, so don't judge me. I'm not going to even pretend that I know how much commission that would mean. And then my average sales price, let's say, is $300. What I love about this tool is it's going to break down for you. Okay, great, Rosie. In order to do that, you need to close out 17 deals this year. And to do that, you need to reach out to 4 people per day. So again, it's set on 2024 right now. So you're going to have to wait until it flips over to 2025 on New Year's. But I want you to think about this right now. Set your goals, figure out what you want to put in these spaces for now. Okay, that's tool number 1, Pipeline. Remember that this is like a whole big tool. I'm just going over the goals today, but you can get in here and hit view pipeline and see like, oh my gosh, this is how far I'm on my volume and on my commission. And then these are all the people that I have moving through my pipeline. So happy to walk you guys through that at a different time if you guys are like, oh, wait, tell me more. Okay, tool number 2 is the digital buyer's presentation. I think if we can all think back about this lovely year of 2024, this has probably been the year that we've thought most about buyer's experience in the real estate industry. And I think you guys need and kind of have to do more in order to prove your value to buyers. And I think a really easy way to do that is by using the digital buyer's presentation. So Today, I'm going to show you the front end of the digital buyer's presentation. I'm not going to go into the back end and show you how to build it because I don't want to take up a million years of your life this morning, but know that it's like a very simple, intuitive process. So in order to get to the digital buyer's presentation, it's actually kind of strangely nestled under listing resources because it's paired with the listing presentation. So if you get under listing resources, you're going to see it pop up. It's the first one under here. Remember, my favorite way to search for things is just by using this search bar up here. I love the way that that pulls up. But you're going to get in here. And when you actually go to build it, you'll just hit this add new button and choose buyer's presentation. And it's going to walk you through all the prompts. Remember, I'm not going to walk you through that today. I'm just going to show you what it looks like on the front end so you can see what this looks like for your clients. Okay, so we're looking at, this is a homepage of the buyer's presentation. And remember, I'm showing you guys this in this like nicer desktop, not nicer, just the desktop version so you can see it all big and blown up. Everything in platform is mobilely optimized. So you should really just try like texting this to yourself and seeing how it shows up. It's gorgeous, okay? So I think the best use case for this is you're getting introduced to buyers for the first time, or it's people that you already know, and you're like, hey, I'm so excited to work with you, excited for our buyer's consult coming up in a couple of days. In the meantime, I want to share with you just my quick buyer's presentation. It's just going to start to get you familiar with who I am and what I can do for you. I think this, guys, no one does this, okay? No one sends them this like gorgeous, really nice presentation for them to look at before they're actually meeting with them. And I think it really sets you apart. So if they happen to be interviewing multiple buyer's agents, which is totally a possibility, I think it's going to make you stand out. So this is your homepage here. You have a couple different picture options on the front. As I'm scrolling down, I'm going to see my headshot here. All of these resources are pulling in from your profile section, which is what we're going to go through next. But you're going to see your license number. This is your short bio. I can get in here and they can read my full bio if I want. You can link a video here. So I have agents do this in two different ways. Number one, you can create like a generic overview video that's just like, hey, I'm Rosie, and this is how I do real estate, and this is what I care about. And you can use it for every single presentation. And then I also have some agents that just get on their phone and film a quick video, and they're like, Joe, so excited to see you at this buyer's presentation this Friday. I wanted to create this presentation for you so you could get to know who I am. So you could make it personalized. Scrolling down, your testimonials are going to filter in. If you've ever seen me do this presentation before, you know that my testimonials are completely fake, but yours need to be real. Don't make them up. This is just for demo purposes. Okay, your recent sales are going to show up here. One thing I love to point out here is that your active listings would typically show here as well, but I don't sell very often. So if you're looking here, it's not going to be like, Rosie, you're a big mess up because you don't have any active listings. That section's just going to collapse. No one's going to think anything of it. So your recent sales are going to populate in here, your contact information, and then it's going to get to our story as a company, our profile. So you're going to see our little short bio. You're going to see our timeline as a company, our statistics as a company. I do always like to point out that this is not just us here in Indy. Here in Indiana. This is everyone. So us in Chicago and Dallas and Detroit and all that good stuff. Let's get into the tech that supports you on the back end. And then it's going to get into the buying process. So they keep this incredibly vague purposefully. So it just goes through like the broad strokes. I know a lot of you guys have your own like processes or steps that you're going to take your buyers through. Feel free to walk them through that at that buyer's consult. This is really briefly going to talk to them about getting a mortgage. Okay, and then this is my favorite section. It's going to talk about from contract to closing, a couple different resources you have for them. Number one, this is where you can link a custom buying plan. So I'm going to show you the template that I use. This is already in Creative Studio for you, which if you remember is our version of Canva, kind of. Can't compete with the gorgeousness of actual Canva, but it does have a lot of templates in there for you guys to use. And so, yeah, this one is under, I think it's just called like buying resources or something like that. So you can get in there and grab whatever you need from that. Okay, going back. Okay, at Turf Reports. So if you happen to know where your buyer is going to be looking, like maybe you're like, oh, I know they're going to be looking in Irvington or Nora or whatever. Some buyers have no idea what they want and they want to look in 5 different places, and you can just hide this section. But if you happen to know, you can make your turf report neighborhood specific rather than linking it to a specific address. You can say, okay, I'm just going to pull all the resources in Nora or Broad Ripple or wherever, to give them just like a good idea of what exists. And then my last thing here, we're going to talk about this. This is my number 5 tool preview, but closing milestones. This is a portal that your buyers can get into, your buyers or your sellers, whatever side you're on. And it's going to have all of the closing milestones from contract to close, everything that they're going to go through. And it has all of your vendors and the documents that they need. We'll talk about that in a second. And then it's going to talk about your partners in real estate, title, and relocation. And then just that real estate is more than real estate to us. And we love giving back. And then it's going to land on your contact information. Okay, so that's tool number 2, digital buyers presentation. Chef's kiss. I love it. You should all be using it. Okay, we're going to go back. Tool number 3 that I want you guys to implement. It's less of a tool and more of the brain of this entire organization. And it's the profile section. Okay, so the whole basis of platform is to save you guys a ton of time, right? So the hope is that you put in your information one time and then it bleeds out into every other tool. So what I want you to do is you're going to hit on your little headshot or name here, and you're going to hit on profile. And I want you to all make sure you have these tabs all filled in, from overview to preferred lenders. Make sure those are all done. So a lot of you guys, when you were onboarding with us, your overview tab was mostly filled out. But what I want you to look at is your social links. If you can go through and add in your social accounts, I think that's the big thing for overview section. Your preferences tab is going to be like the settings app on your phone. This is where you can get in and change up the defaults on different tools within platform. Okay, your bio. This is a little different. We asked for both a short bio and a longer bio here. You'll also see this like custom bio situation. This is mostly used for teams. I don't know why they call it a custom bio. I don't think that's very intuitive, but you just need to focus on these top 2, your short bio and your approved bio. Your approved bio is going to be like the longer couple paragraphs. And it's called an approved bio because it gets sent to me and Taylor, and we'll proofread it for you to make sure there's no spelling errors before it goes out. And then your short bio just shows when we don't have enough space for the full bio. And it's usually like, here's your short bio, and then click in to read the full bio. Videos is where you can link any videos. You're just going to add the video link from YouTube or Vimeo or wherever you host your videos. Add in testimonials. Remember, if these are linked to your website through us or through Zillow, your Zillow Premier Agent account, those are going to automatically come in. If you get your reviews through Google or through Facebook, you're just going to copy and paste them here. Your highlights. Remember, these are quick fun facts about you. I think you can talk about your sales numbers. You can just like relate to them on a personal level about how much you love burritos. Also a great place to put in any kind of nonprofit charity involvement. And then last thing here, your preferred vendors. So if you could go through and add in your title companies, your lenders, your inspection companies, whoever you want to include there. fill out your profile section. Okay, that was tool number 3. Tool number 4 is I want you all to update all of your people in the CRM, and I want you to do it using this awesome tool called Custom Lead Forms that they released earlier this year. Okay, on that tool, it's in platform under marketing. You're going to go to Custom Lead Forms. I'm going to show you what this looks like on the front end just so you can get an idea. It's literally just a custom landing page that fills in people's information. So think of like a Google form or something like that, but it looks prettier and has your branding already on it. So what I want you to do is I want you to create one of these and pair it with a raffle so people actually fill it out. And you're just going to say, hey, update your contact information to win $100 to Cunningham Restaurant Group or whatever your favorite restaurant is in your area. What I love about this tool is that okay, this is the setup page. Again, I'm not going to go through how to set it up because it's very easy. But if I scroll down, these 4 fields, name, email, phone, and address, they're automatically mapped to your CRM, okay? So as people are filling them out, it's smart enough to be like, oh, Jason's already in your CRM, but he put in a new phone number. Let me just go ahead and update that for you. So it's just like making it super easy for you. You can also add anyone here who comes in through this form to a specific farm. You're like, oh, these are my updated contacts in 2024 farm. Okay, update everyone in your CRM. Great thing to do this time of year. And who doesn't want $100 to their fave restaurant? Okay, my last tool for you, and the thing that I'm like mildly obsessed with right now is closing milestones. Okay, so this again is a portal that you can use on either side of the deal, buying or selling. And I'm going to get into one that I've already created. Okay, so this shows up once you have a deal folder. So remember, you have 3 types of folders in the DMS. You have your property folders for listing, buyers folders, and then when either of these 2 go under contract, they turn into a deal folder. So once you're under contract, you'll turn it into a deal folder, and you're going to be prompted to fill out something called the contract info sheet. Once that's done, you're going to get a little pop-up that says, hey, you should be sending the closing milestones to your clients. And this is what closing milestones looks like. Remember, this is a portal for your clients to get into to show them all of the different steps that are going to happen from contract to close. So you're going to see, okay, my under contract steps, my financing steps, my ready to close steps. It's not something that you have to get in here and update again. It's just going to show them, hey, these are all the dates that these things are happening. And it's pulling those dates from that contract info sheet that you filled out with us. What's great is I'm showing you the client view. Now I'm back on agent view. You can go through here and say, okay, so we have a bunch of like tasks or like steps written in for you just to make this easy. But if you're like, okay, HOA document review, my clients don't need to see that. There's no HOA on this property. You just leave it blank. But if you're like, oh, there is an HOA, I want them to see that, I'll mark it as visible for my clients. And then if I'm like, ugh, Rosie did a trash job writing this description, let me get in here and edit it, I can do that too. You can also add your complete own custom milestones. If you're like, pop the champagne, we just pinned it. You can add that in too. And then what I think is great, if I hit on this preview client view, so now I'm seeing what the client is seeing, they can also add their own closing milestones. If they're like, oh, I want to remember that like I need to forward on my mail or something like that, I could add that in here too. Okay, and then you're going to see the preferred vendors. So you can add in, again, a couple different whoever that you recommend here. And then it's also going to hold all of their documents for them forever. Okay, so this is like anything that they'll need to access post transaction. So listing contract, purchase agreement, like all kinds of stuff that would be helpful for them. It's all going to be tagged here. What I will say is this is going to pull over automatically from your deal management system. And we've tagged the documents that's relevant for them. So if you're uploading some random receipt that you don't want them to see, it's not going to automatically pull through. It's just the things that we're like, these are things that clients should have access to forever. Their listing a contract, their purchase agreement, yada, yada, yada. Stacy Grove, I see you have a question. Hit me.
Can you, I'm sorry I joined late. Are you able to send us, like, you said this was number 5 and I heard number 4, but like after this call, can you shoot us an email with like what your 5 things were for people like me that like a checklist?
Girl, yes, I will happily send you a little checklist. Yeah, thanks for asking that. Jamelyn, you asked if they can have access to those documents forever. And yes, they can. This portal lives on for their entire life. So yeah, anytime they want to get in here and check on those documents, they can do that here, which I think is, again, chef's kiss. And it's a private portal. It's password protected. So when you send it to their clients, your clients, they will have to like log into it and stuff. So it's not going to be like someone else can get in and access their private information, which I think is really great too.
What if they buy multiple homes?
There'll be a closing milestones portal for every single home that they buy. Yep, it's transaction specific. Great question. Okay, those are my 5 things, and I'm going to tell you again what they are really quickly. So do I have access to help them? Yes, you do. Yes, so I think if they forget their password, you can bump it to them again, but they can also, you could just like send them the link to the site and they can, how does that work? Oh, there's just a reset password button on that too. So either way, let me look at this chat. Is there a way to put the pipeline and recommended contacts on the front page? Martine, are you talking about, yeah, tell me more. Are you talking about like within this actual closing milestone system? Or are you talking about the front page of platform? Where do you want it? Front page of platform. So the, let me hop back over into the home page here. Okay. Your pipeline is actually on your home page. If you see this little toggle situation here, to be fair, it's not like your full pipeline of like all the different cards, because I think that would get really messy on your home page, but it is going to show you like that brief breakdown. And then you can just click into the the pipeline system here. So you can see volume and you can see commission goal really quickly. And you'll see like, okay, this is how much I have closed under contract hot and what's your goal.
Yeah, there's no way to bring that to just to the main front page, right? I have to click that to go to it.
You do have to click view pipeline if you want to see like the full breakdown. Yeah. Yep. Great question. And then your recommended contacts, are you talking about preferred vendors, or are you talking about like your the people it wants you to reach out to each day?
Yeah, people it wants me to reach out to. I'm just trying to save all having to click multiple times to get to places.
Yeah. That's actually a really good feature request, is like to have your outreaches on that homepage of platform populate rather than having to click into the CRM dashboard.
You have my address for the commission check.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Martine. I'll turn in that feature request to them. That's a good one. Okay, so highlight my 5 things, and I'll send all of these out to you, is number 1, set a goal using pipeline. Number 2, start using the digital buyers presentation, because I think it's going to help you kick ass and show your value to all of your buyers clients. Number 3, fill out your profile section. Okay, it's going to make your life a million times easier in platform. Number 4, I want you to update your CRM using custom lead forms. And number 5, use closing milestones. Okay, those are my things. Thank you for spending so much time talking tech with me this morning. Okay, So up next, we are going to be talking about all of the forms changes coming down straight from IAR. And what's great is Megan is currently finishing up a My Board Grievance Committee meeting. And so she made you a really awesome video. And I'm going to play that video. And then by the time the video is done, she's going to be here and will answer all of your questions about said forms changes. So if you hang tight, I'm going to get this playing. And we're just all going to pray that this just works so well and that the audio is going to share perfectly and everything's going to go great. Okay.
Hey everyone, good morning. Thanks so much for tuning in to our call today. This is our last this morning for 2024, so kind of hard to believe that we're already wrapping up this year. And I know it can be really easy to check out as we get closer and closer to the holidays. And so I do appreciate you making the time to be here. This is important information. I apologize that I'm not there myself. I'm actually wrapping up my 3-year commitment to My Board's Grievance Committee this morning with our last meeting. So I've made this video going over our forms changes, and ideally in a perfect world, I'll be on the call in time to answer questions by the time this video is done playing. But just in case I'm not, you know, I'm always just a call or a text or an email away if you have any questions. So first up, just a rundown of the forms that do have changes coming. The 2 that are going to affect you the most are the purchase agreement and the listing contract. Other changes to more obscure forms, the no buyer agency relationship acknowledgement, the shared listing agreement addendum, the removal of contingency amendment, and then some super small changes to the as-is addendum, the FSBO builder compensation agreement, and the buyer's agency contract. So we're going to go through all of those. It's not going to take forever, I promise. For those of you who may be experiencing your first December in real estate, I want to take just a second to explain what's happening. So we are super lucky that we have a state association that has standardized all of our contracts. And every year in the fall, they review all of the forms and they comb through them looking for places they can make improvements or changes. And they base that on member feedback and what calls the legal hotline is getting and, you know, multi-billion-dollar lawsuits that have affected our industry. And then in December, they announce those changes. They tell us what they're going to be, but they don't actually release the forms until January 2nd. So I can't show you the full forms yet. I can just show you the language that's being added or removed. And then when you come back to work on January 2nd, rested and ready to go, and you log into your DocuSign account, the 2025 version of the forms will just magically be there as if Santa delivered them himself. We're also updating our app forms. And those will be in your DocuSign account as well. I can't give you an exact date on that, but of course we'll let you know when that happens, and we'll have PDFs available for those of you who are using different signing softwares so that you can get those uploaded and ready to go. So first up is the purchase agreement. One small change, there is a sentence under down payment assistance or regarding down payment assistance, excuse me, that's under the financing section. IR felt like that was kind of in the wrong place and not serving the purpose that they had intended. So they've removed that sentence and instead placed language in the inspection section of the purchase agreement. So for example, if a buyer waives an inspection, it does clarify that if an inspection is required by their down payment assistance program, that waiver does not apply to that down payment assistance inspection. And conversely, if they're doing a normal reserves the right to have an inspection, it does just point out to a seller that an inspection could be required by a down payment assistance program. So just moving that around a little bit in the purchase agreement won't change much for you about how you're using that document. There is a clarification on contingent transactions being added. And basically this is if you're writing an offer for a buyer that they're selling a home in order to buy and their current home is pending already, and this transaction is contingent on that sale. This just clarifies what happens if that sale falls through. So basically, if that transaction does not close, the purchase agreement is null and void. Earnest money is released according to whatever terms are decided in the mutual release. I do want to point out to you that it doesn't say earnest money automatically goes back to the buyer. Don't panic. I think it's a safe assumption that if a deal is contingent on a sale and the sale doesn't go through, the buyer definitely has a claim to get their earnest money back. I personally think they use this language intentionally to just remind all parties that everyone has to sign off on that mutual release before that money can be dispersed. Timelines, this one, I kind of laughed at this because I know you guys all know this. You know that days in a purchase agreement are calendar days. We don't differentiate between business days and holidays and weekends unless otherwise or specifically specified. And you also know that timelines all begin the day after an agreement is accepted. However, I've also heard lots of you tell stories about having to explain this to other agents out there in the field. So IR cracks me up that it's taken this long to get this language in there, but they have clarified for everyone now there it is in the purchase agreement. Timelines start the day after acceptance of the document. So if you ever need to find that, it's in the time section. It's towards the end of the purchase agreement. Next up, this one's going to affect you the most as it relates to a purchase agreement. So you'll remember back in July, IAR made the decision to add an addendum. I called it the addendum with the longest name ever, that buyer requests seller to pay buyer broker's commission addendum. They have now kind of reversed their course and they've gotten rid of that addendum. So that addendum will no longer be in your folders in January. And they've just basically baked that language into the body of the purchase agreement. So if a buyer is asking a seller to pay their broker, it's now in the seller contribution section of the purchase agreement. Want to take just a second to point out that that is the way it's written is the dollar amount first and then a percentage. Make sure you're using the correct blank there. My brain typically thinks of commission as percentage first and then dollar amount. So I know you guys were thinking no one would make that mistake, but folks have, we've seen it. So just make sure you're putting, if you're asking for a percent, make sure you're putting it in the right blank on that new purchase agreement. So that's it for the changes to the main body of the purchase agreement. Then in the as is addendum to the purchase agreement, they've also just made that same change about adding in language about down payment assistance that could require an inspection. And that would be allowed in the as-is addendum situation. Next up is the listing contract, and this one I think these are the biggest changes you're going to see. So you're going to see throughout this, there's multiple examples of we've moved away from using reference to cooperating or cooperation. And this isn't to say that we're not all still going to cooperate with one another. It's just that we know based on the NAR settlement that this idea that brokers are paying each other and cooperating in that way has raised some eyebrows. And so they're just changing they're changing buyer's broker to cooperating broker. And then drum roll, this is the big one. So all buyer broker compensation is actually being removed from the listing contract. So you'll remember late last spring, Mark and I both speculated that this was the direction we were headed, and we are here. We have arrived. So there will no longer be an option to get a seller to sign a contract to pay a buyer's broker when they list their property. This is not us driving this. This was an IAR led decision, and we've chosen to make our listing agreement follow what the IAR listing contract is doing. So that language is going away. There is still going to be the same section that talks about, that allows you to kind of talk to your seller about, hey, you're going to get asked to pay the buyer's broker, and will you allow me to advertise that you're open to that, and so forth. That does not change, but you will no longer have the option to contract that buyer's broker commission up front. So that's going away. And then a couple things, this appears in the listing contract and the buyer's agency contract, just some clarification that the seller, in this case, grants the broker the right to disclose to an appraiser if there were any seller concessions or broker compensation paid by the seller. That's just coming up because that information is no longer available in the MLS. And so appraisers in future transactions that are using your sale as a comp may call you and want that information. And your seller, by signing the listing contract, has already given you permission to divulge that information to an appraiser. And then my favorite change of 2025, we are removing the language motion pictures and replacing it with videos. And the direct quote from the IAR attorney was so that we were using 21st century language. So that one's pretty classic. Buyer's agency agreement, these changes are super small. The first one, basically, it's removing the idea that if the broker is getting paid because there's buyer broker commission in a listing agreement, it's taking that out, because it will no longer be there, right? So a seller and a listing broker will no longer be signing a contract to pay a buyer's broker. So there doesn't need to be language about that in the buyer's agency agreement. And then just adding the word landlord to clarify that if a landlord is paying commission, that would apply to the commission that you are due. Same thing about a buyer authorizing the buyer's broker to disclose post-closing information such as seller concessions and broker compensation if requested by an appraiser. Same thing, it's not in the MLS, they can't find it anymore. They can call you and ask, and the buyer has already authorized you to disclose that. Okay, no buyer agency relationship acknowledgement. All we're doing to this form is adding tenant, because if there's an unrepresented tenant, they need to be signing this form as well. And then adding some language in that basically says that a buyer and the tenant have been advised that prior to this signing this document, they can seek advice of an attorney just to make sure they understand any consequences that might arise from them not signing this, or excuse me, not having representation. Again, this is just providing protection from liability to the brokers. Okay, removal of contingency amendment. I don't know, a lot of you may have never seen this form, but if you have used it, it was kind of broken. It was very confusing the way it was written before, caused a lot of confusion. And so they've basically reworked the whole thing. And basically it's separate sections now, depending on who's initiating the form and who's responding. So there's a seller section that basically allows the seller to provide written notification if they've received another offer on their house, typically in like a first right situation, or if they had a contingency on the purchase agreement that they're removing. And then there's a buyer section that also allows them to say, hey, we've accepted a purchase agreement on our home, so we're removing the contingency, or we haven't accepted a purchase agreement on our home, but we're still removing the contingency. Or that we're not able to. So I think if you read through that, it makes sense. It's pretty self-explanatory, but I know lots of us have had some growing pains getting back used to dealing with first right contingencies. We didn't see them for many years, and now they are much more common. But when you are removing contingencies, I think this amendment is going to make that much simpler now that it's been reworked. The FSBO Builder Compensation Agreement. Basically, we're just changing the title of that to include landlord. So if a landlord is agreeing to pay an agent, you now have a document that you can use to get that in writing. And then just some clarification around the fact of like who's this form for, a for sale by owner, a builder, or a landlord. And then just adding that language about compensation coming from a landlord into that document. And then two forms that were eliminated this year. So broker compensation agreement goes away. That's that document that says we at App Properties will pay ABC Realty this percentage. That goes away because that's not happening anymore, right? If we're not signing a listing contract that includes buyer's broker commission, then there doesn't need to be a broker compensation agreement. And this all goes back to the DOJ and trying to decouple those commissions. And then that buyer requests seller to pay buyer broker compensation addendum. Again, that's going away. Never fear, that language is now just in the purchase agreement, so you don't have to worry about that. And last but not least, I did want to touch on the subject of touring agreements. So from the IAR legal team, touring agreements are not consistent with Indiana license law. There are other states where license law is different, and they may work and they may be applicable and they may work alongside the NAR settlement. But in our state, because of our license law, they don't. So our advice is they're just not acceptable. Brokerage services include identifying potential properties and arranging for buyers to tour those properties. And so in Indiana, providing brokerage services equals agency and requires an agency agreement now based on the law changes that happened this summer. So if you're curious about touring agreements or you're seeing stories about them in the national real estate media stuff, they are not acceptable in Indiana. So you should not be going down that road. Okay, I'm almost done. Just to recap, these changes will happen automatically in DocuSign on January 2nd. You'll see all these changes pop up. Our forms are also coming soon and will probably be around the same date that you'll see those appear in DocuSign as well. I just included just a little shot there. If you're ever confused about our forms and want to make sure you're on the right form, we do have the date on the bottom. So we'll say 2025 when it switches over. And the same as with the IR forms, the date is always on the bottom. So if you're ever like, this form feels weird or something's not right, you can always check the bottom of each page and there is a date there to help you reference. Okay, That's it. That's all I have. It's a lot, I know, to process. But again, I just want to thank you for being here today. Feel free to hit me up with your questions or feedback or thoughts, or if you need anything clarified, I'm happy to help.
Okay. Any chance we have a Megan Sullivan in the house on this call ready to talk questions? I don't think she made it in time. Bummer. I tried to keep my tech session so long she would have time to get here. Okay. Well, since Megan is not here, please reach out to her if you have any questions on these forms changes. We'll also leave time during our meetings, like in the beginning of January, to talk through like what that looks like for you guys too, if you have any questions. My last two reminders. Remember that our next two calls are canceled because they're on Christmas Day and New Year's Day. So you'll get updated calendar invites about those in just a minute. And then the last thing is remember that Google Chat competition is going on, and I only have 2 responses so far. So it's either Martine or Natalie Lyons is getting a free iPad. So if anyone else wants to add their hat to the ring for a very good chance to get an iPad mini, do it. Okay, that's all I got. Hope you guys have happy holidays. Sending you all lots and lots of love. Cheers.